It's December, which means it's that time of year when many runners begin their base training to develop their aerobic function. Hey everyone, welcome to another training video here on Keep Running with BK, and in today's video I'm going to talk about following the Maffetone or MAF training principles in preparation for spring training and return to harder running and racing season. So stay tuned, we'll be right back right after this. A runner who trains smart plans out their training year to allow for periods of time where they're focused on developing different aspects of the complete runner. You can't run hard all the time for very long before your body starts to break down. You begin to experience an increase in injury, and that's why there are times of year like winter when runners cut back on the effort and give themselves a chance to recover, to get a little extra rest, and take it easy on their bodies. And during this time is a perfect time to use the MAF or Maffetone training method, where you return to easy running, low heart rate running to build your training volume for the upcoming spring racing season, or just even going after your speed goals. In fact, the majority of your running should be easy no matter what time of the year it is. If you're in that time of season where you're doing harder efforts, developing your speed, preparing for a race, 80% of your running should still be done at an easy effort. But during base training, basically all of your running, 100% of your running is easy running, where you're keeping it at an easy effort, a very comfortable conversational pace where you're not pressing, and it's a perfect time to also then gradually and safely build your training volume. When you're looking to build up your mileage, what you're wanting to do is, again, limit it to about 5 to 10% a week. And ideally, I like to establish the frequency, how many days a week I'm going to run, and get those runs to a certain general distance. So for me, that's roughly an hour is what I target for my runs Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday, when I'm doing my long run, this is the time where you want to progressively lengthen your long runs, keeping it all again at an easy effort so you can safely build up your distance. And this is where the majority of your growth in training volume is going to come from, by adding to your long runs. Initially, it may be getting back to your routine, establishing that frequency, getting the weekly routine down to establish that base level with a long run, the most important run of the week, making sure that you're doing that. But once you get to that frequency and that cadence, then what you're doing is lengthening that long run up to a certain level. And then from there, for some of us, then we might want to go back and maybe take one of our runs during the week and make it a little bit longer. So we have, say, a midweek longer run. And so that's how I would recommend you go about increasing your mileage during this time of base training. When we talk about base training, typically you're doing that when you're just starting out running, or if you're coming back from an injury, or if you're like me, you do it during the winter and summer when you have weather conditions that are typically harsher, either the harsh cold or the harsh heat, and conditions aren't really conducive to racing or pushing it hard. So we reserve that for typically in the spring and the fall, when we have milder conditions and we're doing speed work is a little bit easier on the body physically, and we can control and manage the stress levels a little bit better. So in the fall, I typically maintain my training volume, or I may even reduce it slightly as I'm introducing more hard efforts and speed work, as I'm preparing for specific training goals or specific races. And that takes a lot of toll and stress on the body from those hard efforts. Once that fall training season ends, then typically I take a few weeks just where I reduce my training mileage, I get extra sleep, I may skip a day or two of running just to take a break from it, to refresh physically, refresh mentally. And then when it's time to buckle down, like now here in December, and I want to start up my base training again, I follow those Maffetone training principles, where most of my running, if not all of it, is at an easy effort. And my primary goal is to gradually build up my training volume for the spring. And so I do that because when I'm running easy and I'm adding mileage, I'm adding stress to my routine. And if I was trying to do speed work at the same time, now I have an increased risk of injury. I have an increase of getting hurt. So when I return to base training, I'm doing all my miles at an easy effort and increasing my mileage about 5 to 10% per week until I reach a target level for my personal fitness and my training goals. So I've been running for about 40 years, and generally speaking, I have probably averaged 20 to 30 miles a week during much of that time. And then about 18 months ago, I discovered the MAF or Maffetone training method. And by following the principles of that training method, I was able to, after a long stint of just inconsistent running, far lower training volumes, dealing with lots of injuries, I was able to fairly quickly and actually fairly safely return to about 30-35 miles a week. And I was super excited about that. And I was beginning to find my love for running again, and I was able to get out there and do what I enjoyed doing. And then by following the Maffetone training principles for about 6 to 7 months, I was then able to go beyond that and go from 30 to 35 to 40 miles a week average, which I had never done before. Then I did a 80-20 training block, and then I returned to another season of base training where I was able to go 30, 35, 40, and then on to 45 miles a week. And my hope for this particular training cycle and returning to the Maffetone training principles is to go 35, 40, 45 miles a week. When spring comes, I can then focus on what my racing goals are, what my speed goals are going to be for an 80-20 training block. And then over the summer, I would like to see if I can't go 40, 45, and then 50 miles per week on average over the course of that 3-month base training through the summer in preparation for possibly returning to a road marathon next fall. Before I go more into MAF, I just want to take a moment to say, if you're new here to the channel, in my videos, my goal is to share with you running insights, training tips, and motivational ideas from my own running experiences, really to help you to continue to learn, to improve, and to keep running for a very long time. And by subscribing to the channel, you'll be able to stay in tune with the things that we're sharing here on the channel. And I've got some very exciting plans for the Keep Running with BK community coming in the new year that you're not going to want to miss out on. And in a couple of weeks, I'll be sharing a video to explain what some of those are. So there's some exciting things coming to the channel. It's going to involve some virtual events and activities that we can do together, and hopefully use this channel as a vehicle just to encourage one another, to inspire one another, to challenge one another, but also to have some fun in engaging in some virtual activities. I've never done that before. I always thought that would be kind of a cool idea, and I've got a few of those ideas brewing in my head, and I'm really excited to be sharing that with you here in a couple weeks. So if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel and staying tuned to what's coming. And if you've been a long-time subscriber here to the channel, again, as always, I really appreciate your ongoing support, your comments, and your encouragement. And I look forward to seeing your participation in these upcoming events and getting to really have some fun running together, even if it means virtually from around the globe. So stay tuned for that, and I'll be bringing some more news on those events for you come January. So the MAF training method has really taught me for the first time how to slow down and what easy runs should really be like. As I mentioned, at least 80% or more of your weekly training volume should be done at an easy effort. And by following the MAF training principle, so essentially you calculate your MAF target heart rate by taking 180, subtracting your age, and then adding or subtracting certain modifiers to get a number. And then you wear a heart rate monitor to help you to control the effort to make sure that you truly are running at an easy pace. Our natural setting is to run too hard too often, and so we need the help of a tool like a heart rate monitor to retool and to rethink how we approach our running, and to really learn what easy running really is. When we're doing speed work, the goal is to push ourselves, but when we're doing our easy runs, we need to pull back, and you have this push-pull concept that we as runners really need to learn and to get right and to excel at. And so when we're talking the MAF training principles, the primary lesson that we're trying to learn is how to pull back and control our effort to ensure that we truly are running easy so that we get a full recovery, we're not overtaxing our body, and that we're really developing the aerobic function, which is so critically important to us as endurance athletes. So when we're doing base training and we're following this MAF training method and we're doing all of these miles at an easy effort, that doesn't mean we don't do any speed work. But I think the speed work changes. Instead of doing intervals or tempo runs or going to the track and cranking out laps, I typically incorporate once or twice a week some strides, which are basically short, progressively increasing intensity efforts over, say, 100 yards or 100 meters with then a nice, easy, complete recovery. Or I've just recently started introducing hill sprints, where after a appropriate warm-up, I'll come to a steep hill and I'll do 6 to 8 second sprints up a hill, and then I'll walk back down for complete recoveries. Now, I will say as a caution, if you're first starting this out, I wouldn't go all out on that first time doing hill sprints. I would encourage you to go maybe 80-90% and then gradually work yourself up as you give your body a chance to adapt, especially as you get older. I only say this from firsthand experience because I just recently introduced hill sprints into my own workout, and that first workout I went into it all gung-ho. I went all out. It felt amazing to just go all out hard up those hills, and I felt great about the workout. And then a few hours later, I started to feel some tightness and some soreness and tenderness behind my knee. And here we are about a week and a half later, and I'm still nursing that tender knee. Now, I did do my hill sprints again this week, but instead of going out 100% right out of the gate, I probably started off at about an 80% and gradually built up to it. And by the last two sets of hill sprints, then I was back up to say 90 to 95 all out sprint up those hills. And I'm sure with time I'll get stronger. But the goal of doing strides and hill sprints and incorporating those in during your base training is, again, the main goal is to gradually and safely build our training volume up to those target levels. But by incorporating these short strides and short hill sprints, we're continuing to train our body on that fast turnover without overtaxing the body. We're getting full recoveries, and we're not putting a lot of hard miles on the legs. Again, these are very short efforts. They're focused on quick turnover and with complete recoveries that really don't disrupt the easy training focus that we have for the entire week. I think it's important when we do easy running during our base training that we remind ourselves when we go out the door for each of our runs, what is our focus for this run, and reminding ourselves that the goal here is to safely and gradually build our mileage. And so we're not going out to set any speed records. We're not going out to race anything. We're not going out to prove anything other than to keep it easy, allow our bodies that chance to develop that aerobic function, to develop our endurance strength, and arrive at spring training, if you will, ready to go with an improved fitness level so that we can do those harder efforts and we can really pursue our training goals or race goals for the spring training block. So one of the things that always comes up when performing MAF training method is all this slow and easy running really effective? And I've been using the MAF training method now for about 1.5 years. And one of the things that I do at the end of every month is I go to the track and I perform a MAF test where I run at my target MAF heart rate for 1 hour. And if I'm making improvement, if the method is working, I should see a measured progress in the amount of distance I can cover in that time at that target heart rate. And when I did this 1.5 years ago, the first time I did it, I ran 5.96 miles in 1 hour. 6 months later, I had ran 6.21 miles, or basically 25 seconds per mile faster. And then 1 year later, I ran 6.6 miles, So I ran basically 59 seconds per mile faster. That's almost an entire minute per mile faster at an easy effort, based on following this Maffetone training method where my running is primarily easy. I'm using a heart rate monitor to control it. And you just have to be patient. You have to trust the process. You have to trust the training. You have to give your body a chance to adapt and undo a lot of unhealthy habits and really embrace the easy running on easy days. And as a result, I have found additional benefits where I've run more consistently than I've ever run before. I've put in more miles this year than any other year before. I've not been sidelined as frequently or as for long based on injury or overtraining, because I've learned to embrace the MAF training method. I've learned to embrace easy running on easy days and not allow my ego to get ahead of me and run too hard too often, which really is what works against us as runners more than we'd like to believe. Now recently I've plateaued a little bit and I've seen smaller and smaller increments of improvement, and so that's where introducing, say, an 80-20 training block like I did this past fall hopefully jump starts more adaptations. And as I return to base training, my hope and expectation really is that I will improve anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds per mile between now and springtime, when I begin another 80-20 training block and pursue some race goals. So does the MAF training work? Does all this slow running really work? It does. And it's really important, as you're thinking about your base training this winter, that you think about how to approach your running so that you don't burn out, so that you can safely build up your mileage, so you can get stronger as a runner. You can develop your endurance strength, and you can show up come springtime ready to go to jump back into competitive race season and pursue those time goals that you have. So I hope you found some value in this video, and if you did, consider giving me a like there. It really helps out the channel, helps to promote the video, as well as bring additional awareness. I want to remind you again, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be talking about in just a couple of weeks about those exciting ideas that I talked about, of some virtual events for us here at the channel to participate in. Just something a little different. Give it a try. I'm thinking maybe trying to do maybe 2 or 3 of these virtual events next year. They're different kinds of events. They're going to accommodate all different types of training, fitness levels, and so don't worry about that. But I really hope that you will come back and check out some of my other videos. And until next time, stay safe, train smart, and keep running.